Have you ever looked at one of your drone photos and thought it looked amazing while I was out flying, but it doesn't quite look the same on my home computer? Well, this week I had a message from a subscriber, Droneflyer75, asking for advice on photos and what was the best software to use. So the good news is that you don't have to spend a fortune on expensive drones and have years of experience to take great aerial photos. So in the first half of the video, I'll show you the camera settings and simple techniques that I use on almost every flight. And then in the second half, I'll show you how I edit them using a brilliant bit of software called Luminar Neo to get the final image. And the first thing I do is to switch to manual mode. Auto exposure changes constantly as you fly and your photos can end up looking inconsistent. You also need to put on the histogram, but I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So when I'm in auto, I leave the ISO at 100 and then I adjust the shutter speed for the correct exposure. I also keep an eye on that histogram to make sure that none of the highlights are blown out. Next, if you are using a drone such as the DJI Lite OX1 or the Mini 5 Pro, both of them allow you to shoot in RAW, and that gives you a lot more flexibility when you're editing. The file size will be bigger, but you will have a lot more options for editing later. Now, if you're using something like the DJI Neo 2, that only shoots in JPEG, so you're going to have less room to recover your highlights, shadows and the colours. Also, don't leave your white balance on auto. Make sure that you go into the white balance settings, switch it from auto to manual, and then that's going to lock in the correct white balance for that particular shot. And because of that, it's going to mean that every photo you take is going to have the same color temperature. So as I said, select auto first and then switch into manual to lock it in. Round about 5600 works well in sunshine. 6500 is good starting point for things like sunrise and sunset. The next one is something that a lot of people miss out, and that's the aspect ratio. So for photos, you always want to use 4:3 because that uses the full camera sensor and gives you the maximum image quality. If you need a widescreen crop, you can do that later on in post-production. Now you also want to look at using grid lines and the rule of thirds. It helps with the composition, and it also makes keeping that horizon level, even though the drone does have a gimbal to help with that. And remember to line the subject up on one of the vertical lines because that's going to give a more pleasing image. Now, if you're shooting landscapes, you should have the horizon on one of the third lines again, so either the top third or the bottom third. And again, that's going to give you a nice balance between the horizon and the sky. With the other two options, the diagonal lines I very rarely use. The center point, I find it useful if I'm doing things like a top-down shot because it does help center the compositions for some of the shots. So as I said, you need to think about composition. So before taking your shot, you need to ask yourself, what is the subject? Try using roads, rivers, beaches, coastlines as leading lines to guide the viewer's eye. And one of the biggest advantages of the drone is perspective. Shooting straight down can give you a lot of patterns which you wouldn't normally see. So fly high to show scale or position the drone somewhere you couldn't stand with a normal camera. Now, the best camera in the world can't fix poor light. So whenever possible, fly during the golden hour. The softer light with the warmer colours and longer shadows will improve practically every photo instantly. And if you're shooting somewhere where there's a lot of glare, for example, coming off the water like I am on the beach, or off some glass if you're in a city, try and think about using a CPL filter, because this will reduce the number of reflections from the surface that are hitting the lens. And it also means that the drone is going to get a clear image and you'll be able to see through things such as the water reflections. But always try and shoot with the drone 90 degrees to sun, and that's going to give you the best effect. Another thing that the CPL filter does is that it causes colours to pop. So you will get brighter blue skies and more vibrant foliage. Now, another quick bonus tip is to tap the subject on the screen before taking the photo just to make sure that it is in focus. You also should give the lens a quick wipe down before every flight, and if your drone has the AEB facility, it's worth using for sunrises, sunsets or any other high contrast scenes. So those are the techniques and settings I use before flying the drone for photography. So now it's absolutely boiling, so I'm going to go home, put the photos into Luminar Neo, and I'll show you how a few simple edits can completely transform them. But before I do that, if you are finding the video useful, if you could do the like, subscribe, notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. There's also an option there for buy me a coffee if you'd like to do that, and I'll catch you in a few minutes when I get back. Okay, so I'm back home. So after you've taken your photo, you then need to see about editing them. And for me, that's the part I used to dislike the most. Even the smallest edit usually used to take me forever. And I remember thinking how much better the images actually looked on the drone screen, or I would come home and there would be some obvious issue that I hadn't noticed at the time. Now, the truth is, almost every great drone photo you've ever seen online has been edited at some point. But the good news is that you don't have to spend months learning how to use any complicated software. So I'm going to show you the software that I actually use to edit my drone photos, and that's going to be the Luminar Neo. Now, there's a lot about this software that makes it ideal for drone photography. It's powerful enough for professional photographers, but it's also incredibly easy for complete beginners to pick up. Now, I have tried quite a few different editing programs over the years, and some are incredibly powerful, but they're also incredibly complicated. But with Luminar Neo, I found that I could start producing better photos almost immediately, and that's what really makes this bit of software stand out. So if you're a beginner, the interface is clean, simple, and doesn't overwhelm you with hundreds of confusing tools. But alternatively, if you have been editing photos for years, there are plenty of advanced controls that will let you fine-tune exactly how you want the image to appear. So it does really grow with you as your skills develop. And they all start with simple AI tools, and then gradually you can learn more advanced editing as your confidence improves. Now, although I mainly edit drone photos, Luminar Neo isn't just for aerial photography. You can edit landscape photography, holiday photos, pictures, the family, wildlife, cars, portraits, or travel photography. Basically, if it's a photograph, then Luminar Neo can improve it. And it does have plenty of features that really suit drone photography. So the first thing I really like is that the Luminar Neo works brilliantly with both RAW and JPEG images. So if you fly something like the DJI Mini 5 Pro or the Lite X1, both of those shoot RAW, and that's going to give you the maximum amount of editing flexibility. Now, if you fly something like the DJI Neo 2 that mainly shoots in JPEGs, then there's still no need to worry, because the Luminar Neo will still produce some really impressive results. So out of all the tools in Luminar Neo, if I could only keep one tool, that would probably be the Enhanced AI. And honestly, this one tool does an incredible amount of work with just one single slider. So it intelligently adjusts the exposure, the contrast, the color, details, shadows, and the highlights. And that's one of the biggest reasons I recommend Luminar Neo for beginners. Now, as drone pilots, we all know what it's like. You capture an amazing landscape, but the sky is completely flat. But again, in Luminar Neo, you can fix this with the Sky AI, which lets you replace a dull looking sky in just a few clicks. And it's a brilliant tool. And the really clever part is how realistically it blends reflections, lighting, and colours into the rest of the image. And the next tool that I use has generally saved quite a few of my photos. And you know, it's like you've flown the perfect position, everything looks great, and then you notice some overhead wires running through the shot. Now, Luminar Neo also has a power line removal tool, and that often removes them automatically, and it can save you an absolute ton of manual editing. And it's all part of the erase tool menu, which again is a feature that I use regularly. So this lets you remove any distractions like people, cars, sign, rubbish bins, or any random objects which may appear in your photograph. So for drone photography, it's absolutely brilliant for cleaning up beaches, parks, open landscapes, anywhere where there's going to be sort of distracting objects pulling your eye away from the main subject. Now, if you're like me, probably 95% of your drone photography will be landscapes, and drone cameras capture these with an absolutely incredible amount of detail. And this is where Structure AI comes in, because it helps bring that detail back without making the image look over-processed. So this is used to enhance things like cliffs, mountains, building, rock formation, trees. But be warned that a little Structure AI does go a long way. And then there's colour. And this is where you can start to apply your own style to your photographs. So Luminar Neo gives you simple controls for vibrance, saturation, white balance, and your colour temperature. Now, I generally try not to overdo the colours, and it is very tempting to make everything look incredibly bright. But often a more natural edit looks much more professional. And one thing that I would recommend is that you step away from the computer for 5 minutes and then come back and look at the photo again. And then after doing this, you will probably notice that you may have pushed the colours a little too far. We've all done it, but it is a nice way for you just to take the image back into perspective and maybe tone it down a bit. Now, after you start editing, you may realise that some of the biggest improvements isn't with the editing itself, it's simply with the composition and the cropping. And again, this is where the software excels. Now, as well as having the usual tools to straighten horizons, Luminar Neo also offers an AI composition tool, meaning you can simply put in the ratio you want, or even what the image is being used for, things like Facebook, and the software is going to handle the rest. And even a small crop can completely change how the photo feels. Now, if you photographed something at a sunrise or a sunset or in lower light, you might notice that you are going to get a lot of digital noise, especially with drones that have smaller sensors like the DJI Neo 2. But again, Luminar Neo can handle this as it has an AI denoise setting, and that cleans up the images surprisingly well without destroying any of the detail. And remember that less is usually more, so don't tend to use the maximum settings. Use just enough to clean up the image whilst keeping it looking natural. So as I said earlier, most of your photographs will probably be of landscapes. And in addition to the settings I usually use, Luminar Neo also uses AI to enhance a whole range of other settings. So you have things like sky and sun rays, enhancers for twilight water and landscapes, and even one that's going to add atmosphere to your photos with fog and mist settings. Now you can also use presets if you're brand new to editing, and this is a great place to start. Luminar Neo includes lots of presets that can instantly change the look of your image. I wouldn't rely on them forever, but for learning and the basics, they're absolutely fantastic. And you can see how different the styles can affect the same photograph, and then gradually learn which adjustments create the looks that you're actually looking for. Now these are just scraping the surface of the tools that are available. There's things I haven't covered, like the creative tools with light depth, magic light, moves and drama settings. Even a section for portraits with enhancements for studio lights, bokeh, face, skin and body tools, and more professional tools like super contrast and colour harmony. And no matter what tool you're using, it's all done with sliders, so you can see what works best with a minimum of fuss and learning. And it's super, really super simple, quick and easy. Now, another nice thing about Luminar Neo is that it isn't limited to your desktop. There are also versions for your smartphone and your tablets. So if you are traveling or you simply want a few quick edits while you're away, you can still work on your photos without having to come home and sit in front of your computer. Now personally, I still prefer doing my main editing on the desktop version because I have much more screen space and finer control when it comes to working on the raw drone photos. But it's nice having the flexibility to edit on my mobile devices as well when I need to. So for me, Luminar Neo has been a game changer. It doesn't try to replace my creativity. It simply removes a lot of the difficult technical work and then lets me focus on making the drone photos look their best. So as I said at the beginning, it is a piece of software which does become incredibly easy to use, but is still really incredibly powerful and will enhance your drone photography no end. So if you are thinking about giving Luminar Neo a try, I will put my affiliate link in the description below. And as I mentioned earlier, using that link helps support the channel without costing you anything extra. And if you do use it, I would really appreciate it. Now, if you found the video useful, if you could give it the thumbs up, subscribe if you already haven't done that. Don't forget to hit the like button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos on any drones or software or other tutorials I'm actually planning on doing for Luminar Neo. I'd also like to know what your favourite photo editing is. Let me know in the comments below. If you've got any questions in relation to any of the drones or editing software, also let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll catch you again in the next video, and thanks for watching.